Okay, so we are again back at this wonderful book, The Lost Olympiad, Stockholm 1937. We are playing the games on the original chess set that was in use by those players. So if they had the time machine, they would be surprised that more than 80 years later we still have that. And round 2 has a little introduction that says 2 rounds have been sufficient to sift all the favorites to the top, but with Argentina and Holland, the latter led by reigning world champion, nosing in among them. Ov in 1937 was the world champion. Ov had beaten Petrov of Latvia yesterday. And now, still in the Baltic, he faces Keres of Estonia. This is clearly going to be one of the set pieces of the Olympiad. Max Euwe, world champion, conqueror of Alekhine, meets Paul Keres, whose sparkling aggression has already made him one of the likeliest claimants to be the new Alekhine, and Keres has the white pieces. Okay, so Keres Estonia. He opens with e4. By the way, let me show you one thing that is important. Okay, here we are. So since some people are really interested about improvement, well, it seems these 2 volumes by Keres are very important for a player that would like to improve his chess. They show you, especially about the open games, they will teach you a lot, because Keres played one e4 a lot. So it might be worth to acquire this collection of games played by Keres, because it will really open your mind to the evolution of a game, in a sense, because Keres, as you can see, has been from 1930s to the 1970s one of the top players. So clearly someone that was interesting to learn from. And now let's go back to our game here. So Keres opened with e4, and of the reigning world champion plays e5. And here it says no evasion. Ov was willing to stand up to anyone and take what was coming. Knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, a6, bishop a4, knight f6, castle, and the knight takes e4. Ov's play was very much in the Tarrasch mode, and he was always prepared to take this pawn. d4, b5, bishop b3, d5, d takes e5, bishop e6, c3, bishop e7. White has many roads open to him now, and the attacking player has the chance to show his mettle. What will Keres play? Bishop e3, knight e5. And here white plays knight d4, which is important because Keres cedes the bishop pair rather than let the knight come to c4. Okay, so let's see what happens. Castle, f3, knight c5, f4. And here comes the attack. The threatened further advance of this pawn will demand all of Euwe's defensive skill. So that's the threat, right? Knight c takes b3, knight takes b3, and knight c4. So a knight reaches the square after all. Keres could have prevented this by recapturing with a pawn instead of a knight, but understandably did not like the reply c5. Okay, so that's the real problem. And now Keres plays bishop d4. Can you imagine? Would you have played this move? Because obviously you're giving up this. And here it says Keres offers the b pawn to take it. Would be obviously to take it would be playing right into the hands of white. Why? Because knight takes b2, queen c2, knight c4, f5 once more. So that's the goal. As you can see, Keres is really not joking around. He took control of this. And now he likes to let you take because he doesn't care, tack, because he wants to attack that king. So that's kind of interesting, okay? Very, very interesting. He was a very sharp player, that's why I show you those two books, because you will see some amazing attacking chess. And this, however, shows us also a good defensive skills, so something we can learn from, right? Okay, let's see what happened after bishop d4. He played bishop f5, blocking the advance of this. Rook f2, protecting this at this point. e5, and now there is a problem here, right? Knight c5, e4, securing his knight on c4, because if you take, he can take back. As long as it stays there, white will have difficulty in developing his queenside pieces. Black's counter initiative is now very real. So he needs to develop this, but if you go here, the problem is this, right? So what do? He played queen c1, queen e8, and now there is finally knight d2, queen c6, b4, because he wants to have an outpost knight that he cannot be pushed away, but that's not gonna happen. And this is called en passant, right? Knight 2 takes b3. This is a very interesting position. Try to think for a second and see what would you play as black. Okay? In this position, what would you play? Ov played rook a3. The counter-attack grows. Every black piece is available for action on the queen side, and the whole of white's left-hand sector, though containing no king, begins to look fragile. Clearly, we have a beautiful book with some beautiful games, right? And they were played so many years before us, so it's like to have a time machine. g4, he obviously tries to counter-attack on the other side, and here it says, yeah, typical Keres. Ov refuses the offer, and one wonders what Keres intended to play, it being accepted. So, if it played bishop takes g4, what Keres would have played? He cannot really play f5, it says here, okay? Can you see why? Hmm? So let's see it because I think it's worth it. Just a second. Tack, tack, boom! What do? You take, you say, yeah, right? Check. Now you understand the problem, right? So you cannot really do that. So let's see what happened here, because I'm kind of curious to see, okay? But let's finish to read the... It is unlikely that Keres and Euwe both overlooked this possibility. Was it a bluff that succeeded, or did Euwe object on principle to giving white an open g file? Yeah. Either way, white's attack now gains momentum and the two attacks look finely balanced. So that's the interesting game that we are witnessing here. White is able to attack on the king side, but black is also attacking the queen side. Okay, so who will arrive fourth? Bishop e4, f5, and bishop h4. This is the power of the bishop pair. Knight takes e4, d takes e4, and rook g2. So as you can see, not having the open g file is something important. And let's see what it says in this critical situation. I find also the diagrams well placed in the book, okay? So it says, in this critical situation, threatened with g5, Euwe calmly resumed his own offensive. His queen is particularly well placed, not only pressing against the queen side, but now, since the exchange on e4, looking menacingly down the long diagonal, where there is no white square bishop to challenge it. So let's see what happens. Rook f a8. Boom. Black iron grip on the queen side holds up the white advance. Euwe gave the line 26 g5. So he thought that if white played this, it wasn't really good, and Euwe actually show why. Knight c5. But now the bishop is overloaded and the pawn goes. Oops. Knight takes e5. Bishop takes e5. Queen takes c5 check. Bishop d4. Queen d5. Tack. And it's still this, and the threat is also down there. Queen f4. Keres fights gamely, is threatening both queen takes c7 and f6, as well as something still fiercer as follow. Let's see what happens. c5. Bishop takes g7. They were not joking, eh? King takes g7. So can you imagine, in reality Fischer had to face this kind of players like Keres, or these very strong players, and had to become the best of them in order to become who he was. g5, rook takes c3, and the queen takes, boom, h4. So it seems that in this game there is an analysis by Euwe that says this is a good move because it keeps the pawn, but in the end is not going to save white. So there is a beautiful analysis also by Euwe that is being preserved in this book. Clearly a good book, because as you can see, The author has worked very hard to collect all the material. Okay, let's see what happens. Queen takes f5. In the heavy piece ending, black's passed pawn plus the d file, which is about to seize, will prove too strong. As you can see, I also like the prose. It didn't give very long variations. Also the variation above by of is like 3 moves long. And just this prose to tell you what's going to happen. So after queen takes f5, queen h6 check, king g8, queen c6, rook d8, queen takes b5, rook c d3, rook f1, rook d1, rook f2, queen g4, king h1, e3, rook takes f7, e2, oi oi oi, queen b3, trying to get this, but it's a little too late, clearly. Hoping to save himself by the threatened discovery, because there is a discovery check, but it's not going to work. Why? Because after this discovery check, c4, and now you have this and this attack at the same time. Beautiful. And here it says, a specimen of Euwe's masterly play in the 40s, which were also his 40s. Okay. In the evening session, Poland went top with a 4-0 win, while Hungary's bye appeared to drop them to the 6th place. An illusion. Of course, for 7-8 was still the best score. The 4-0 win by Lithuania lifted them 5 places. Norway remained bottom, though the 2 draws which they extracted from the USA trebled the score. And so the next is round 3, and round 3 will show us a very interesting game too. It will still played on Sunday, August 4th. Wow! So this game was played in the morning from 10:40 to 15:30, which is 3 o'clock and a half, and then at 5:40 they had another round up to 10:40 in the evening. I don't know how they ate the dinner at night, because if you start to play at 5:40 and then at 10:40, who is gonna give you food? I don't know. No, very interesting. Again, beautiful book, The Lost Olympiad, and we are enjoying the games thanks to this beautiful chess set that is from the time.